Daphne.
Yes, so I want to hear a little bit more about this radical approach to reemployment. Could you tell us a little bit about it?
Absolutely. You know, my family laughs at me, but I think about career transitions 24/7, much to hilarity at their end sometimes at what they think are inappropriate moments. And if there was a way to tweak the system to make it more effective, I would have found it. Before it was if you tweaked your resume a little bit or you interviewed in a certain way, it would give you everything that you needed. But the system is inherently broken now, and those little tweaks don't work anymore. And here's why it's broken. Part of it is that we're using electronic keyword scanning. So you take a resume of several pages, many years of experience, and you reduce it down to a handful of keywords. That takes away any differentiation between job candidates, and it makes all of the candidates look like interchangeable cogs. To use another word, they're commodities. The process is so wildly stacked against the applicant and in the favor of the hiring organization. And that's not a bad thing. Ultimately, they have the decision to hire or not. But it seems as if the situation now, we've lost common courtesy, so that folks slave over that cover letter and the resume, and you get your keywords just right, and you submit it, and then you never hear anything. And that's heartbreaking, to be sitting there thinking I'm perfect for this job, and then submit it and nothing happens. So my radical new approach is stop looking for jobs. Stop. Cold turkey. Stop.
Well, that is radical.
It is, isn't it?
Well, what skills does one person would need in order to use this new approach?
Well, I call the new approach creating opportunities instead of looking for a job. And here's the difference, and it gets to your question about skill set. When you're looking for a job, it's a passive exercise. You're looking at the job boards for jobs that have been created, and they look like this, and you sort of need to contort yourself so that you can fit into that box that's been labeled like this. You have no control over any part of the process except whether to apply or not. Everything else is completely out of your control. By creating opportunities instead of looking for a job, it's a very active process where you control every aspect about it. And here are the skills that a job seeker needs. First of all, you need to really do some thorough self-assessments so that you know exactly what your skills are, what your talents are. I like to call it what sort of a painkiller you are. Are you Tylenol? Are you Percocet? Are you general anesthesia? Because you bring those skills to bear to an organizational challenge, and you need to figure out what organizational challenges you are best at solving. So the first thing you need to do is know yourself really well. The second thing is identify the kinds of organizational challenges that you can fix. The third thing is to go and find the organizations who have those challenges right now. And that takes a lot of research. It takes a lot of reading quarterly reports, reading news articles. Then you contact the highest level person who owns that challenge in an organization. And you schedule a meeting as a colleague. And your conversation is, gosh, I see that you're having challenges around customer retention or whatever it may be. I have some thoughts on that. I've solved that problem before at A, B, and C situations, and I'd love to come by and share some ideas with you. That's what I call a high-yield activity. Your chance of getting a response to that is pretty high, that they'll say, sure, come on over. Who wouldn't want free advice? And then you get to meet with someone as a colleague and share your ideas of, gee, let me learn more a little bit about your organization, and have you tried this? And I did this before, and that worked in this organization. Maybe if you tweaked it like this. And you get a chance to really shine with what you know and what you've done and the research that you've been doing and what you've been thinking about. And you create an opportunity. Notice that at no point have we used the word job.
I noticed that.
Or shown a resume, right? Because we're creating an opportunity to really showcase our skills and knowledge and experience. Now, an opportunity is different than a job, and that person who's sitting with you saying, wow, she really knows a lot about customer retention or whatever it may be, is very likely going to offer you an opportunity. And you have to be ready for any sort of opportunity that arises. Often this will be some sort of a consulting or a contract situation. Gosh, we could use somebody like you as we implement this, or we'd like to hear more of your ideas. Could you contract with us for a particular time? And you need to go in there knowing what you can price yourself at. So if they offer consulting, in my mind, this is the time frame that I'm thinking, and this is the dollar amount. If it's a project, here's how long I think that would take, and here's what I would like financially to get out of it, so that as opportunities present themselves, you are ready and able to act on every one of them.
So there's a lot of people who are out there looking for a 9-to-5, 40-hour a week, 365, or 52 weeks a year kind of job. But this is another way of looking at it in terms of skill sets and being placed in the right opportunity. So for those people who are looking for a job, they need to kind of change their mindset. Am I correct?
You do. In these times, with so many people looking for positions, I was at the Harvard Central HR office a few days ago, and the director of human resources there told me that they get 200,000 resumes a year, and they hire 2,000 people. So I'm not good enough in math to do that calculation, but it's a lot of resumes to a person hired. So you need to really be open to every opportunity. Chances are that if they hire you on a contract basis or a consulting basis, and you're really good at what you do, you will be asked to stay on in a more regular 9-to-5 job. But you need to be open to every opportunity and create all kinds of opportunities rather than just saying, I'm only going to look for this. Absolutely. That field is very, very, very small.
How can an individual determine what their high-yield activities are?
High-yield activities are the kinds of things that are likely to get a positive response, like calling someone and offering your thoughts or advice is a high-yield activity. People are likely to respond yes. I have a rule of thumb about high and low-yield activities. High-yield activities are the things that you don't want to do. They're the things you know you should do, but they're really hard, like picking up the phone and calling somebody and setting up those face-to-face meetings and then preparing and having the face-to-face meeting. Those are scary and really out of our comfort zone, right? Kind of like being unemployed is, right? A low-yield activity is basically anything you can do in your saggy sweatpants from your couch. That's probably a low-yield activity. And that's things like trolling the job boards and sending out dozens of resumes. The opportunities that they cause, the response rate is really low, and that's what makes them a low-yield activity.
Well, how do you research organizations to identify the challenges that they face, so that you can, I guess, get in there?
And this is the differentiating skill that will make a job seeker an opportunity creator to master research. And you've got to look in different places. So instead of looking at the job boards, look at the financial news. Look at who in your industry, your target companies, who's doing really well, who's doing not so well. Look at their corporate missions. Look at their annual reports. They're all available online on their websites. So you can look and see, gee, if they're targeting this expansion in Latin America and you speak Spanish, great. That's something that you have to offer.
Absolutely. That
would be compelling for them to listen to. And you know how to do bicultural marketing because you want to target the places where you can really excel. So look at annual reports, financial reports, look at the news. Look at not only the company that you're interested in, but their competitors. Who's got the hot new product? And if this company isn't the one who's got it, what are they doing to maintain their market share while this other competitor has a really hot product?
Well, you did mention contacting the person in the organization. that owns the challenge. How do you go about doing that?
Most of the time, they're looking for the most senior person who has responsibility over that challenge. Let's say it's customer retention. You would go to the website and it lists our management team, and you would find the person who has, and it's different in every organization, but who handles marketing or sales or customer relationships. Look for those kinds of titles and then address and it probably will be a letter because their email address isn't usually conveniently provided. So you would write a letter and tell them about what you do. You can also call the company and ask to be connected to them, and chances are you'll get their assistant. And you can talk to them a little bit about, this is what I do and what might be a good way to schedule an appointment to see them and feel out some interest there too.
What are the advantages to using this particular system?
Well, it has a lot of advantages actually. One of the advantages is that it's an active rather than a passive activity. So you're in control. You can decide what companies are of interest, how many of them there are, how fast you're going to go or how slow you're going to go, how deeply you're going to research. Maybe what you do doesn't require really, really deep research. So you're in control of every aspect of it. It also keeps you on your toes in what's happening in your organizations of interest, in the target industry that you're looking in, because you are doing all this research. And so you're learning and exposing yourself to all of this information. And when you go to these interviews or go to these meetings, you have a lot to say. Gee, I just read last week in Forbes that your competitor said blah, 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 or they just released this new thingy. And it keeps you really, really, really up to date with your skills and knowledge and makes you so much more marketable.
Seeing that we looked at the advantages, let's look at the disadvantages.
The biggest disadvantage is that you got to get out of those sweatpants and off the couch. So being home alone with your head in the computer and being arm's length with everything is a really low yield activity. And what you need to do is put on, not necessarily a suit, but put on some business friendly clothing and get out there and talk to people. People, when you meet with them, they might say, gee, you have great ideas, but we've already tried all of the things that you suggest. Thank you so much for coming by, but there's no synergy here right now. That's okay. You're on their radar screen and they know you, and you've met them as a colleague with a generosity of sharing ideas, so you can stay on their radar screen now by updating them with email, or maybe you connect on LinkedIn, but now you have a relationship with these key people in target companies and industries. How can that be a bad thing?
Well, you did mention LinkedIn, so networking plays a large part in this. Not necessarily just contacting the company themselves, but you can get started by going into a networking group and talking to people. Am I correct?
That's absolutely true. This is a specific kind of networking where you are networking one-on-one around specific issues that you've investigated and that you are here to talk about. But you can certainly do similar things in industry meetings, associations, professional organizations, and if you get known as, go ask Daphne, she's always got a great idea or a new spin on something, that enhances your intellectual capital, your re-employment chips, if you will, by quite a lot. Take LinkedIn to the next level. Go to the groups that are in your industry. Get really active. There are people who do nothing but answer questions, and if you go to this week's experts, you'll see that some people have answered 362 questions in the last 7 days on topics of interest in their areas of expertise. I'm not saying go to that level, because how do they do anything else but answer questions? But if you get known as, she's always got a great idea, a new approach, a positive spin, it gets your buzz out there, and it's another way to keep you up to speed on what are the concerns, what are the emerging trends in your industry. Use your status updates, update them at least twice a week with some of the things that you're doing.
I appreciate you coming through and giving us this information. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
It's been really informative, and we appreciate you coming and hope to have you again soon with a little bit more information.
Thanks,
This
Daphne.
has been the New England Job Show.